Welcome to Command Control Power, the longest-running Apple consulting podcast. For over a decade, we've delivered weekly episodes filled with epic tech support stories, troubleshooting insights, discussions about managing clients and businesses, and interviews with industry colleagues and vendors, all tailored for our pro listeners. We also offer exclusive content through Patreon. This private podcast feed is designed specifically for IT professionals, providing valuable advice and guidance on tackling the more complex aspects of running your practice, working with clients and employees, and managing device fleets. With a modest monthly contribution, you'll gain access to a wealth of advanced Apple expertise, meaningful connections, and a community driven by a shared passion for Apple technology. Visit commandcontrolpower.com and click support to learn more. And now, on to the show.
Welcome to another episode of Command Control Power. Good to see you guys. Jerry, I see you're in your conference room there.
Yeah, but this is discriminatory to the people who only listen to the audio version of the podcast. So
just another incentive. Yeah, they need to get on the Patreon show and then they can see your fancy handiwork there.
Yeah. By the way, I am going absolutely bonkers from all these clients of mine forwarding me the message about Microsoft Publisher. Has this happened to you guys in the last couple of days?
Not Publisher, but I get a lot of those. Does this apply to us? Kinds of emails. Yeah.
Yeah. So Microsoft is sending out this blast to everybody saying, we're improving your Microsoft 365 subscription, and you need to convert your existing Publisher files to PDF before this date. Who cares?
Is that an improvement? Microsoft Publisher. Yeah, okay. To convert to PDF because they're doing away with it? Is that the idea?
Yeah, it says ending October 2026, Microsoft Publisher.
Okay. Yeah. At least Sam got the email.
Yeah.
No, I just checked it because I haven't seen anything to my clients. So I wonder if that's just if you're a user of Publisher, you're getting that alert.
No, two disparate people who've never seen Publisher in their lives. It's just like everybody's rattling my cage. What do I need to do about this?
Yeah.
All right. I live in my own little microcosm.
I did a search for Publisher. I don't have any emails about it that I can see.
Okay.
Yeah, me neither.
Publisher. Yeah, that's funny.
Maybe it's just the greater Durham, Connecticut area.
Microsoft is using that as their first test bed for Publisher.
So the last couple of weeks now, I've been diving into different Microsoft solutions from AI, Adigy solutions from AI, most specifically Claude. The most recent thing I'd done with Claude was I had read some of the people on the Slack forum, the Adigy channel, talking about printers for endpoints and for groups of people. And I'm like, I don't know how to do that. I could probably spend the time to figure it out. But now with Claude, I just throw this stuff at Claude and I need to create a printer pool here because I had this issue with this one client who had brother printers. I don't know why they got into the habit of buying these brother printers, but these MFC multifunction printers. And most of them are kind of janky after they get old. So they were falling off the network and I couldn't figure out why. And I would have my client restart the printer, restart their computer. And sometimes they would show up with bonjour and sometimes they wouldn't. And I thought maybe they're trying to connect to a 2.4 network that's shared with a 5 gigahertz network. So I created a separate SSID and I had them join that and that didn't solve the problem. And so I don't know if you guys have a solution, but I went to Claude and said, hey, Mr. Claude, how do I fix this? And he said, set static IPs for all the printers. And then I'll just create a policy and we'll deploy it via Adigy. And within less than an hour, I had pushed out this printer pool of 7 printers that went out to all my users, like these 12 users. It's one of my big clients. But
Bob's your uncle.
Bob's your uncle. I know all these things are possible with Adigy, but a lot of them, if you don't eat the dog food every day, right? Or if you don't eat, you even forget things that you did before with Adigy, unless you do it day in and day out and you live and breathe it. So it's just really so much easier to take it to AI and have AI put you right there and save tremendous amounts of time. And I've got other examples today, just incredible stuff that I'm doing with my own computer. Want me to keep going?
See what you got.
Okay, so my AI stack is I have a subscription to ChatGPT, and I just use that out of convenience sometimes for responding to clients who ask me about Microsoft Publisher. So ChatGPT seems to do a good job. I'm sure Claude could do the same job with that. But then for the heavier lifting, I've been using Claude. And I can't take credit for this next one, but I listened to Mac Geek Gab with Dave Hamilton. He's been on our show. I've mentioned him in the past for getting ideas. And so what he was doing was he was pointing Claude Cowork to his computer logs folder to take a look at his Mac to resolve unexplained issues like battery depletion, just unusual behavior, nothing out of the ordinary that we all experience. But I've heard you guys express how you see this unexplained battery drain or this or that or the other thing. So I gave Claude Cowork permission to look at my logs folder. I pinned it in Claude so that I could recall the same conversation again, right? The same, and said, take a look at it now. Take a look at it now. So it went out and initially identified that there was this incredible single Chrome render process that was steadily consuming memory. So they said in the report that it grew from roughly 1.8 gigs to over 9 gigs overnight.
Oh, wow.
And the Mac recorded repeated memory pressure events as a result. So it suggested that one tab or one web app had developed a runaway memory leak. So I had to look at it a few times. It could have been just and again, I don't want to blame Adigy at all, but I do frequently keep an Adigy window open, but eventually I get logged out of that anyway. So I don't understand why that would be running around in the background. So what I did to solve this, and this was not suggested by Claude, but I knew it existed, is Marco Arment of the Accidental Tech podcast, who is the developer of the podcast of choice, the podcast player of choice, and I use it every day, but I can't think of the name of it. Guys?
Overcast.
Joe? Overcast. So I use Overcast. That's why I listen to podcasts. I don't use Apple. So Marco has this free app called Quitter. We may have mentioned it on the show. Joe, you may have mentioned it on the show. And what you could do is you could set a behavior for any app. Quitter runs in the background all the time, and it can be found in your menu bar if you wanted to. And you just designate to close an app or quit an app after a certain amount of time. So I just simply told my computer, if I'm not using Chrome after 30 minutes, shut it down. And all my problems went away. All my problems with like battery consumption. And just like sometimes the computer would beach ball. Now I've got an M5 MacBook Air, so new with 24 gigs of RAM. And so I shouldn't see any beach balling at all. And it was terrific. It was really terrific and solved my problem. So your mileage may vary, but I highly recommend you doing that. If you are experiencing issues with your computer, it's a little more tricky to do a client's computer unless the client is subscribed to Claude, and you'd have to use Cowork for that.
Can I present an argument to that? I would think that's not really solving the problem, right? It's just like Chrome is still a problem. It's just quitting it to get rid of the problem, right? Like I think there's something happening with Chrome that should be, it's your computer, so you don't care. But like on a client side, I wonder what's really happening there. Is there an extension? Is there something there that's just eating up your memory?
Sure. Claude Cowork could dig deeper and you could keep on working on it. Obviously, it can look at the logs that it has, but you want to evaluate this over time. So it might be an ongoing process by doing this. And there might be other solutions with another AI tool that you can just download on the fly that a computer can look at. But you're right, Sam, it doesn't solve the problem. It's just a work.
Bob's still your uncle, but I'm just thinking
Bob is still my uncle, yeah.
I hear what you're saying, though. I still have conflicting feelings sometimes about artificial intelligence, but there's no denying what it can do. And it's pretty fascinating. If you don't mind me riffing for 2 seconds off of that, because I know you have more, Jerry.
Riff away.
You can download a plugin, and as long as your organization supports it, in our cases, we're running single instances of Claude, but if you have an organization, you can block those sorts of things to make sure that regular Joes, no offense, Joe, can't do that. But it's pretty incredible how you can just tack on things and say, hey, now look here, do this stuff. So it's pretty fascinating. Scary, but fascinating.
Yeah. And the scary part of it is what for you, Sam? Let's talk about your fears a little bit more. Let's unpack that.
Are we going to get into it here? There's some fear-mongering as well, but there are news reports of what some of the AI tools are attempting to do to get a job done that goes a little bit beyond what we would consider ethical to perform a task. So I think there's still some of that going on where we're, what's that terminology, flying the plane while you're building it situation, where we don't know what it's capable of, and we don't have the proper guardrails over. I'm just getting into my soapbox moment here, but like,
you sound like Joe, if I may.
We're still leveraging all the components of it, but it's like, what can it do? It concerns me. I got to be honest, but I'm still using it. It's not stopping me. It's just concerning along the way.
Yeah. I had a parallel, not having to do with this specifically, but an AI conversation with my wife this morning. And she was taking a little bit of an issue with me, but also a family friend who you'll be in the middle of a conversation with this family friend and you'll talk about something and either one of you won't know the answer. And without this friend even asking you, this person whips out their phone and starts talking to ChatGPT in the middle of your conversation with them to augment the conversation. And my wife, I don't mind it personally. It's like, if that's how you need to roll down the highway, that's fine. But my wife gets completely rooted out by that. She just feels like that's not the way she wants to live her life, is dealing with people who are, her opinion is like, I'm having a conversation with you and this just completely derails our conversation.
Yeah.
And
I liken it to the early days of when people would whip out their phones and Google search while you're having an argument about something and be like, this says this and you're wrong. And it's like, well, we didn't have that before. We just had arguments and made our best cases based on our built-in knowledge.
Sure.
And now everything is at our fingertips to change that conversation.
Yeah. For me, it just makes me a better technician. And
in that box, right? Yeah, I agree.
It saves this incredible amount of time for the small financial investment. And I understand the things that we've talked about on the show before, the impact on the environment. And there's towns that are suffering in different ways by their electrical grid or pollution, contaminating the water. AOC recently appeared before, I believe, a Senate committee presenting water wells that were contaminated by this server farm that was recently brought into this neighborhood. And horrible things. I understand that. We can't, I think that train has already left the station. And especially, again, right or left, currently with our current administration, all these regulations are being lifted and business has a lot more latitude in doing what they want to do. The guardrails are off, I think, even just in terms of, forget about what Anthropic is talking about in terms of the guardrails on Claude. The guardrails are often what these developers and these billionaires want to do with their environments to create these server farms.
Yeah.
It's a brave new world.
I know. Yeah. It feels like every show we land on the topic of AI, but it's very timely every time.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. We've bet the entire U.S. economy on this whole thing as well, because I was listening to Cory Doctorow on this great podcast called On the Media, talking to Brooke. They were having this great conversation, and his take was the same 7 companies are passing around the same multi-$100 billion IOU to each other and pretending that it's in all of their bank accounts at once. So it's a really interesting metaphor. There's a lot of truth to it, where they've each loaned each other money and sold each other hardware and invested in stock in each other. And it's just a really, aside from the real physical data center concerns about water usage and pollution and energy usage, we've also got the economy is highly dependent on this now, in addition to the stuff that we were first bringing up about guardrails and the lack thereof and all of that. So it's just this multi-faceted major problem. It's really a scary time.
There's a lot of that going on in the tech industry in general, too. Yeah, I agree with the component on the AI piece. I'm reading a book called Going Infinite. It's about Sam Bankman-Fried and FTX. And it's an amazing book, by the way, by Michael Lewis. And talking about how he had 2 different companies and they were feeding each other. Yeah. Just no one was watching anything. Oh, you need 600 million? I'll just give it from this company and put it over to that one. It's mind-boggling to read some of these stories, and it's not uncommon.
Yeah. Then you've got Michael Saylor with the whole MicroStrategy investment, where his whole strategy is that he's like a Bitcoin treasury, and basically he just keeps buying Bitcoin and selling shares in his company which will continue to pay dividends as long as Bitcoin always goes up in value. And it's like this, as they called it initially a couple of years ago, I think, the infinite money glitch. It's like, hey, there's this thing that works in our economy, and he developed a company around it, or pivoted his company to it. And the assumption is that the number has to keep going up, which is like the same in your example. It's just when Sam Bankman-Fried's Bitcoin investments and all, as long as these numbers always go up and only go up, like there's no problem. So what's the problem? It's like the same thing was in 2008 that caused the housing market crash, was like all the equations were designed to only ever increase. The housing market just had to always increase in value. And then we hit a time where it went down. And then like all these people were insolvent and it just cascaded down throughout the system. Yeah. The numbers are just getting bigger that reflect the problem. The problem just keeps getting bigger. So it's the risk, I should say, because maybe it's not a problem. Maybe the numbers always do go up. Maybe if one of these companies creates true artificial general intelligence or a sentient AI model or of some sort, they will truly own the entire world. And so that what's that worth? It's incalculable, but that's a pretty big assumption. And that comes with its own major problems. It's just funny that we're still having the same conversations that a lot of people were having for the last 10 plus years, which were only hypothetical up until about 5 years ago. And now we actually have this technology in front of us and the genie's out of the bottle, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah. And in the same breath, we're all clamoring for the new iPhone that'll come out. That'll probably have some enhancement where versus the 17, the 18 will now have something where it'll do the AI even better. So all of a sudden, we're all up in arms about AI, but we all want to get Joe, in your case, you have to have a new phone.
I have to have it, yeah.
I'm sticking with my phone. I don't have to get it.
I have it.
Sure, it's speculation, but if they teased out, Sam, that the 18 is even that much better and your experience with Siri will be even enhanced over the 17, everybody will be tempted. Whether you decide to buy or not, it remains to be seen. But all right, back to the real world. Again, my friend Claude. So this is a visual daily double, although I don't have a picture that I can show you.
Daily double. But Jeopardy for all you non-understanders.
So I have cameras, or a few around the house. And one was the original Doorbell, and it runs off of Wi-Fi, and it can do 2.4 and 5. So just out of the mudroom, down the stairs, I have a 7 Pro. And I thought the 7 would give me better range, whatever. It would make my doorbell a little bit more enhanced because it had to communicate with an access point that was just down the stairs.
But you have a concrete castle, Jerry, so I don't know how.
So we're not going to derail Jerry on his thought process here because it doesn't take much to send me off into the weeds. So and this is a difficult one to unpack for me anyway. So, but the signal strength of the Wi-Fi was always reading that it was a weak signal strength, and I couldn't delineate on the UniFi doorbell to say, use 2.4, don't ever use 5.0, 5 gigahertz. Right. So what Claude said was, you simply need to create a unique SSID that's 2.4 exclusive and call it My Network IoT, and then simply direct that doorbell to connect only to that 2.4 gigahertz network. Now, that sounds simple enough. And now that I said it out loud, of course, you need to do that. But if that was obvious, I couldn't see it, right? So it had me do this. And initially, the doorbell couldn't see this new 2.4 network on the access point that I needed it to connect to. So I said, that was really weird. So I asked Claude again, I said, what's going on here? How come it can't find the 2.4 that it needs to be strong signal strength? So this doorbell now could not see this new network. Now, in the UniFi configuration, you could say, this is the network I want you to connect to. So I did that, but it wasn't showing up as an optional network to connect to. And what Claude told me, and it would take me a month of Sundays to try to figure this out. Claude said, you need to distribute that network on some of your other access points, maybe for triangulation. And as soon as I added that IoT network to a couple other one of my access points, all of a sudden, the doorbell found the one in the basement, the 2.4, and it's been connecting, and the signal's been great, and it's been flawless ever since. And where I really noticed the the pushback on why this wasn't working properly for me is if I would try to replay a video, if someone who came to the side door, it wouldn't play smoothly. So I would get the picture, but couldn't really play the video. I could, what do they call it? I could parse through it. I could scan through it and see. Scrub. Thank you, gentlemen. And now all those problems have gone away. And actually I was able to translate that same concept to the client I was speaking to you about earlier with the printer pool and the brother printers network. Initially, I created this IoT network and seeing if, we'll just have the brothers connect to an isolated 2.4 network, and that didn't solve it for me. But now I have a trick in my pocket, and you guys do too. And forgive me if those of you listening already know this, but I wouldn't have thought of that out of the gate.
So is it, just to my understanding, is it connecting to the same initial access point that you set up as the 2.4, or is it connecting to a different one?
So the initial access point was a 2.4 and 5 gigahertz, like we normally set up our APs. Sometimes we do 6 in some cases. And for whatever reason, due to the logic that was built into the doorbell, wouldn't say, you know what, this 5 gigahertz is a little weak. I'm going to just always connect to 2.4, and that's going to be my instruction set. And I even assigned that doorbell only connect to the one at the bottom of the stairs, because that's the closest one to you, and that's the one that's going to be most reliable. But somehow in the UniFi doorbell, they couldn't parse out that it needed to go to 2.4 all the time.
Yeah. I'm a fan of IoT networks too in the home if possible. So I think that's a sound setup anyway, just to separate them out on different VLANs. And
sure. But my concern was that when I'm connecting locally with the surveillance system, the UI package that Ubiquiti offers, that if I separated it out on an isolated network, that camera wouldn't show up. So I definitely wanted it to be part of the default network. I hid the SSID once it joined it. So in this case, I do have a IoT network for my home that's running separately, and that's exclusively 2.4, but I needed to put it on the default network, if that makes sense.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Rather than a separate VLAN, because like you said, you want it all really to be part of the same network, whether you're connecting directly or remotely or whatever. It needs to be part of the same network. That does make sense.
I can't remember if Ubiquiti or UniFi does this as well, but I know with SonicWall, you can set like a one-way trust. So like the main network can see that IoT network, but the IoT network can't see the main VLAN. Look, you're not Fort Knox, but I think like in certain situations, that might be a good thing if you needed it. In your case, of course not. I get it.
Yeah.
But that's an interesting thing to think about as well, is just like, because those are the weak points, we'll say, where a network could get infiltrated, like cameras and things of that nature. Keeping them separate, not a bad idea.
Yeah, I had a firewall rule that did that, Sam, in my office, and it was the same thing. I had a separate network for client Macs that would come in. They would be plugged into the network typically, or there was a Wi-Fi component as well, and it was the same idea. So I wanted to have my computer on my main company network and be able to get to the client network to be able to use screen sharing to connect to a Mac or whatever it is. But I didn't want those devices on the client network to be able to reach out to my private company network. So there is I don't think they called it one-way trust, but it's essentially the same concept where, you can just set up a firewall rule that does that. And I think the way it works is if my Mac initiates the connection to that network, it allows it, and therefore it also allows the responses. I forget what that's called, but it's like the reply or whatever. Whereas if the packets originate from the client network without initially being requested by the primary network, they're not allowed through. So it achieves that goal. And again, not Fort Knox, but like you do want to have some level of protection where if a client, obviously my paranoid mind was thinking like somebody could say, hey, I have a problem with my computer, it's having trouble with whatever. And that computer could be running some kind of background process that's scanning for ports and trying to reach devices and things and trying to somehow exfiltrate data from my private network or whatever. And so it was like a precaution that felt a little bit better than just like let their computers join the main network.
Yeah. Sometimes we have these clients who listen to a tech podcast show and they bring you in and they want their own IoT network, and with mixed results. Sometimes that it's taking a step back. And I can think of trying to create an IoT network for Sonos sometimes can create inherent problems in the person. Oh, I get started my computer. You're on your private network and the Sonos is connected to the other network. You have to connect to the other network to drive the Sonos now. And so it's problematic.
If you don't have that trust, yeah. But if the trust is set up, it should in theory work. And
yeah, for most cases, the separate IoT network is really just to allow those devices to join and stay joined consistently. And you want, like in Jerry's case, to have everything be on the same network because you want the Sonos devices to be, even if they're on an IoT network, to be accessible from the main network. Likewise, if there's a camera, like in Jerry's case, you want it to be available. But as Mike Kingsley is saying, you should do that in many cases because there may be untrusted IoT devices, like some random camera that you get off of Amazon that's maybe not a reputable brand, or even if it is, you don't want some backdoor to allow the manufacturer to get into your main network through that camera. So you isolate the IoT network to the internet in those cases, or if you want some level of interoperability, you isolate it to the internet, you isolate it from your main network, except again, you allow your main network to discover those devices, but not the other way around. So that does seem to be like technically the right way to go. And since you said, Jerry, the magic word of Sonos there, and also speaking of, you mentioned earlier, Marco Arment, the Quitter app, and he's the main voice of, I would say, the Accidental Tech podcast. On that show, the Accidental Tech podcast, I learned actually that the new Sonos app allows you to turn off SonosNet. And this was something that they used to do way back when. There was, I think, a web interface to do it, or maybe the app could do it for a while, and then they removed the feature. There's also been cases where you would turn off SonosNet on an individual device, and it would be re-enabled automatically if that device or if another device, whatever, discovered that there was a device that didn't have Wi-Fi capability or didn't have an Ethernet connection, let's say. In order to make that new device available to join your Sonos network, it would just turn on SonosNet. So we had cases where it was like playing whack-a-mole because we would turn off SonosNet wherever possible, and then it would we'd find that there'd be problems and it would have turned itself back on. So the fact that they now allow you to turn it off once again gives me hope that maybe that is more reliable. And also, again, UniFi has created some best practices documents, and there's better ways of handling this now. I haven't heard of really any Sonos issues other than the one I mentioned a few weeks back about a client that had issues like last November or something like that. So it's been quite a while since I've actually heard of any issues. But how are you guys feeling about that?
I think I'm stuck in the dark ages with Sonos. A long time ago, I used to complain about them on the show, but like a long time ago, I just decided I had so many problems dealing with Sonos, me personally, that I asked Matt, I'm like, to focus on that. I'm like, hey, Sonos tickets, just take them, man, because I can't do this anymore. So now it's probably better, but I don't even know because I'm like, oh, Sonos ticket? Yep, I'm not touching it.
Nice.
Matt can deal with it.
Actually,
they've had more in-app updates along the way recently. And I have a little 5.1 setup with a subwoofer and 2 ear speakers and then the smaller sound bar in my living room. And it's been solid for 4 years now, 3 or 4 years. Occasionally there'd be something going on and you'd just have to kind of repair them, but I haven't been able to, or rejoin them into the network, but I haven't had that in quite a while.
Speaking of other podcasts I heard on the Pivot podcast, I know, Jerry, you listen to this one with Kara Swisher and Scott Holloway. Kara was saying this topic of Sonos came up, and this was on like a recent show as of July 2026. And Kara, they were talking about Sonos, and Kara mentioned Sonos is unreliable, and in my experience, it's a great company, great system, but unreliable. And I'm thinking, are you using UniFi? I wanted to send it a feedback and maybe some recommendations because she's been in tech for a really long time. I figure she's got plenty of people helping her with this stuff, but it's just funny to hear that someone who's been in the business for so long, who's presumably as wealthy as she is with the resources she has, is still struggling with something that we've all seen throughout these years. Yeah. Even she can relate to that.
Not really similar to Sonos, but in thinking of old school problems that probably shouldn't be happening anymore. I got a call from an old client that I love, but I don't deal
older
with
than
them.
me, Sam.
No, I don't mean age wise.
Oh, okay.
No interrupting, Sam. I'm on a train of thought. Now, where was I? Oh, yes. I haven't spoken to them in quite a while because Matt handles them. They're just a mom and pop shop, lovely people. I got a ticket that came in when Matt was out that said, hey, I was doing something with my credit and Experian. And they're like, is that normal? And I'm, no, definitely not. Yeah. I already put it in. What do I do? Oh, no. I called them up. We did a remote session and walk me through what happened. And we went through, she has 4 different browsers. So we went through each browser to see, because she's like, I can't remember the URL. I'm like, let's start there and make sure it was a legitimate URL. And we couldn't find the URL anywhere in her recent history. That's really odd. She's, I swear I went there yesterday. Okay, so we're trying to decipher that. And then finally she goes, oh, it was in a private browsing window. Does that matter? I'm like, yep, that matters. Sure so we won't see that history. So let's try it. Anyway, so we recreate the incident where she went to Experian and the site was asking for the password, and the password prompted her for Touch ID, which to access passwords.
Okay.
And her Touch ID wasn't working, which led the computer to then say, put in your computer password. And I was like, oh, is this what happened? She's like, yeah. I'm like, okay, we're totally fine then. I was freaked out for them because I was like, oh my God, no one should ever be asking for your computer password. So it turned out a major scare for me because I want to make sure that they're safe was like not a big deal. But while we're in here, why don't we fix your Touch ID so that never happens again? Because it wasn't recognizing her finger anymore. So we fixed that. Problem solved. It was a major concerning incident that turned out to be a nothing burger. So that was kind of nice, actually.
Yeah, it's amazing how that trips people up. I've had the same experience, Sam, where they're asking me why I never know what password it wants. And I'm trying to log into my Gmail and it wants my computer. And I'm putting in my Gmail password and it's not working. And I'm saying in this case, with this prompt, you have to put in the Mac password, Mac login password. Why does Gmail want? It's not Gmail that's asking you, it's the password autofill. It's very subtle for a lot of people to understand that. And it just reminds me just how there's a lot of context clues that are very obvious to us in second nature, and it's really not as obvious to most people, despite the fact that they've probably been using a computer for a long time. Seeing that little Touch ID symbol, is that a registered trademark that only Apple's allowed to use? No, that can be displayed in a website, and how would they know that's not actually from the system and that's from some website? Or like why? And sometimes it's grayed out because it's not the active window, so it's even more subtle. Or like you said, it doesn't work, and then it's asking for the password. It's the same thing. How am I supposed to know that this is asking for the computer password? Sure. The answer is if they read it, right? It says, enter the password for the account Jane Doe. What do you mean the account Jane Doe? They don't necessarily even know that's referring to their computer login password, their Mac login password. It just says their account name typically. So yeah, it's just I feel like that could stand to be improved, a little bit.
Right. And of course that distills down to, what's your computer login? My what?
Yeah.
If you had to restart your computer, don't you have to put in a password? No. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's try some. Yeah.
It's the rare exception that they don't. It's technically possible, I think, to auto log in.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Still, but it seems like most people, when I got started in this business 20 something years ago, a lot more people had this automatic login on the Mac. I mean,
it'll still do that. At one point. Of course. I had my headless Mac Mini doing that.
By the way, Jerry, before we go any further, how's my shirt? It is a V-neck, so is the neck okay?
No, it's good today. Yeah,
okay. Just want to let you know it's a V-neck, so it's supposed to be like this.
Okay, no, it's good. It passes all the tests. I wanted to tell Joe that, I like that you're sporting your beard on both sides. It looks a little longer.
Yeah,
I like that. Sometimes you make it a little shorter.
And Jerry's talking about the beard.
Yeah.
I want to see the shirt.
I don't know what.
Yeah, I don't want to see your shirt.
I was assuming it was criticism. Yeah, this is the WNYC logo.
Oh, yeah.
Here.
Radio station.
This is actually the architectural design of their transmitter, apparently, in like 1 to whatever scale. Let's see. At some point I could read that, but yeah.
It's not to scale, Joe, because it would be a really small place if it just fit on your T-shirt.
Yeah. I remember Zoolander. Yeah. The school for people don't read so good.
Nice.
One quick note, kind of not tech related, but since we're on some personal items,
another beauty tip.
I'm not wearing glasses today, so I'm a little trepidatious about this. But I went to the eye doctor, and you guys have probably heard in the news about these drops for age-related sight issues.
No,
one of the popular ones are called Viz and Closey and all these things, where basically they help constrict your pupil to be able to see the up-close text and to avoid the need for glasses. I'm just giving you my report because I have a platform to do that. So I'm trying it out. It's kind of okay. My prescription isn't that bad for glasses, so I can see blurry on my screen if I needed to. But kind of curious to try it. So I did it, and this is my second day. I'm able to work without glasses, but I don't think I'm comfortable, the type of person that's comfortable with just putting, I don't know, drops in my eyes that do something to my eyes on a constant basis. It just scares me a bit. And there's some history of older versions of these drugs like not being great to your eyes. So I don't think I'm going to keep doing it, but I did want to give it a try to see what it was like. And fascinating.
And how many days do they say you need to put them in before it actually kind of kicks in full blast?
It's supposed to be right within 20, 30 minutes. This is my second day in a row. I just went to the eye doctor yesterday. And it did a better job. I'm able to see things on my phone without my glasses. But I just don't think I'm the type of person that's comfortable doing that on a regular basis. Maybe sometimes if I want to go out and not wear glasses, I'll throw a couple drops in. But
so would this have to be habitual, or it fixes your vision and then you can stop?
It's not, you would have to continue doing it. So it's a 10-hour approximate time frame. So if you wanted it every day, you would have to put drops once in the morning and drops like 2 hours later.
Now, wait till you get to be my age, Sam, where you got to take a pill or multiple pills every day. I know you're feeling, because I never I don't want to be on anything I'm going to have to regularly take. And now it's whatever keeps me going.
Yeah, I hear you. So I didn't want to derail us with my personal.
No, it's actually very interesting. And
I thought you guys might find that interesting.
Technically, the active ingredient, or if we go to our eye doctor and we mention it,
I'll find it as we're talking. Oh, to treat presbyopia. I don't know. I'll look it up because I don't have the box in front of me. But it's something I can't pronounce usually. But
nor could I.
Yeah, it is interesting though. And also, do you guys ever get worried on calls where you're talking with a client and you're wearing glasses and they can see a reflection of your screen or anything if you're doing something else or multitasking? Do you ever have that concern?
Can I interject that Joe would probably be really worried about this?
Yeah. Yeah. My paranoia. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I was thinking about that. I think about it. Yeah. I can see some of my screen in my own glasses right now. So yeah.
Yeah. I've had to tell people that I work with when we're on a group call, I'm like, hey, I can see everything that you're doing. I just want to change it up a little bit. So it is concerning. And I think some of the blue light glasses or some of the other glasses might dim that a little bit, but it is a legitimate concern as we, there we go. Mike Kingsley talking about anti-reflective glasses.
Yeah.
So I wonder if that maybe he'll answer on this, but we can look it up. But if those work with prescription, with blue light, with all the other components that glasses can have, can you also just add anti-reflective? I don't know how much is too much for glasses.
So are you concerned that they might see that you're browsing adult websites while you're doing over the phone tech support?
No, but you have other client information, sensitive passwords, whatever.
Updating your OnlyFans page, Sam?
Yeah, you know how that goes. So it's
especially if
Gary knows he's a subscriber.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You don't need to look for the glasses. You got the direct link. Yeah. But especially if the call's being recorded and somebody could go back and freeze frame and see in theory, oh look, the new brand for such and such, that if you're like in marketing or something and you're working for a new brand refresh for a client, you wouldn't want a different client to see that early preview reflected in the glasses. But
exactly.
Yeah.
Legitimate concern in the state of Zooms and Teams meetings.
So I got a quick tip I was going to say for you guys, but mainly for Jerry and then any other listeners out there who use RingCentral. You can reorder items in the sidebar of the RingCentral app. And also I think the iPhone app as well, but I use RingCentral on the desktop mostly for texting, using B-texting, which is my way of using my main company number to send and receive texts and sharing that with Tim on my quote unquote team. And so the desktop app is great for that. And there's a sidebar on the left. And by default, it has a bunch of stuff that they want you to use for their own benefit, not necessarily for my benefit. So they have a webinar feature and a video feature and all kinds of stuff that I don't use that they prominently display in the sidebar. So I was just ignoring it for years. And then every time I want to go to my call log, for example, to look up how long was I on the phone with this client, I would have to drill down 2 or 3 screens to just get to that list of calls. So one day I just started to experiment and I see that you can customize the sidebar. So I go and I start to play with that, and you can actually, you can get exactly what you want. So you can go under the More menu and choose Customize. You can then choose to have calls display as a main menu item rather than, I think, sub-item of something else, and voicemail and recordings are also available to show up in the main menu. And then once you add them as a main menu item, they appear by default under this more entry, and you can actually move them out of more to the kind of top level of that sidebar menu. And so then I can just now, in my RingCentral app, I can just click on calls and I can see my calls list. I can click on B texting and I can see that. Those are like the two main features that I use. If you use voicemail there, I receive voicemails by email, so I just use that, but you could have your voicemails there as well and lots of other things that you use, and you can also rank them at the top. So I have calls and B texting right at the top, and then I've put everything else under the more menu, so I don't have to look at it every day. So yeah, it's really useful. That's a tip for RingCentral, but lots of apps have that customization built in, and you might as well use it to make it more functional for you and save yourself a few seconds every day.
Our youngest daughter is going off to college, and as typical with most high school students, they drop their phone multiple times, and we've always gotten those Belkin screen covers, clear protection, but the Belkin ones specifically that you would get at the Apple store. And Apple had a little fixture that they could bring out custom made, and they would put it on for you at no charge if you bought it, the Belkin screen protector, through the store. And the idea behind that was you didn't really get any bubbles and it went on perfectly, right? And so we've all had that experience of buying ones through Amazon, trying to put them on ourselves and then taking the cloth and trying to get the lint out of it and all that blah, blah, blah. But her screen was like miserably cracked, but it was just the protector on top. And my wife too, she had one. So I said, okay, we have all different model phones. And so I started to look for something that would be sufficient, because I went on the Belkin website and they said something like, because they have some sort of a lifetime guarantee. So as soon as you send them a picture, they'll send you another one. But that didn't work for me because you'd have to wait. And I went on the Belkin site and they had none of them in stock. So that was out. So I started looking on Amazon, and one particular brand came up, and I had never tried them before. The company's ESR, Echo Sierra Romeo, ESR 3-pack for an iPhone of any flavor that you have, any size that you have. And it's supposed to have something called Armorite tempered glass with a 9H plus hardness rating, 7 times the impact absorption. So I was sold. So I ordered up all three for all three phones, and each one comes with their own little built-in fixture in the box. And maybe this is common now, but I've been out of this buying these things from Amazon for quite a while. And in every case, mine was an iPhone 15 Pro Max. So I did my phone, I did my wife's phone, which is smaller and newer, my daughter's phone, which is older. And in every case, the fixtures were a little different, but they went on fantastically well. And you get 3 of them in a pack. And it only cost me, I think it was, each one was on sale on Amazon for $10 a piece. And these things are like fantastic. And I had no bubbles in all 3 of them. So highly recommend ESR 3-pack for whatever size phone you have. And so if it cracks a little bit, you don't have to worry about it, because it's like you have another one in the box. It's great.
Okay. So it is $10 for the 3. $10 for a 3-pack.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a great price. That changes my criticism. I criticized this whole thing.
Okay, you were going to chop me down, cut me down.
No, not you in particular, but a lot of people pay for the Belkin one. So you were saying no charge, right?
Yeah.
So what's the cost of those? Isn't it $30 or $40?
$30 or $40.
Yeah. So this is a great savings. Obviously, it changes the whole equation. But if you're paying $30 or $40 for a screen protector that itself will presumably get cracked at some point. The problem is I see people just leave the broken screen protector on there. You might as well just not have a screen protector and just crack the original phone, and at least you're dealing with the original glass until that point in time. Because even if you do replace the screen protector when that cracks, you're paying another $30 or $40. The difference in price between buying another screen protector versus just paying for an AppleCare repair it's not the same price, but what's an AppleCare incident, like $100 or something. So if you're paying for the janky thing that sits on top of the real thing and probably changes the way that the camera works and maybe the Face ID sensor and the LiDAR sensor, I don't know. These are just my little criticisms. For some reason, I just feel, these phones are not meant to have all this extra armor on them. If they need that, then Apple should fix the underlying problem and make them even more durable. They're pretty durable as it is, but I don't know. I think it's a kludge to have a separate screen protector. And I do carry a case, as people know, but I used to not do that.
Yeah,
I know,
me too.
Sam, you were commando as of last Aces, right? But
Yeah.
we
But if
had
it
a whole
falls-
conversation about that. Yeah.
But if it falls, who has the time to go through the whole Apple Care
it's fair.
replacement on it? And if you could just grab another one out of the box for, again, I got it on sale. It's probably normally 15 or 16 bucks, but even at that price, now the Belkin did work and the lifetime guarantee did work, but they didn't have them in stock when we needed them. We would have had to wait a week to 10 days.
Oh, I missed the
So-
lifetime. Okay.
Yeah,
That also
and then the
changed
other thing is
equation.
September's coming up. You want to trade these in. In every case, so we've done a screen protector on the front and nothing crazy on the back. It's not like we've ever put him in the, what are those?
Otter
Not Pelican.
boxes or whatever.
Otter boxes. Yeah. So they look like they're for a 5-year-old who you put the iPad in it.
Yeah.
That kind of protection.
They're
But
so
in every
bulky,
case,
yeah.
when we would do a trade-in, it's not like we had to say, oh, let's send it out to AppleCare first so they fix the screen. And yeah.
That's a good point. Yep. No, we went hiking a couple weeks ago and my wife had her phone in her backpack and must have set it down on a rock or something, I don't know, and managed to crack the camera, one of the camera lenses. And it's like, you can clearly see it's indented. So it must have just hit right on a sharp rock or something.
Oh.
That's really rare. I haven't really seen the camera break before, the rest of the front glass or anything. But what was really odd was, so then we tested it out and we took a photo and it was fine. And I'm like, okay, maybe I don't know which lens is which. She has the regular 16, so there's 2 lenses. I'm like, all right, try the 0.5x or the other one, whichever. They were both totally fine. So it was really weird. It was physically indented, the camera lens, but it was, as best I could tell, is it actually was still maybe the lens cover extends across the entire outer diameter of the lens, but really you can see inside there is a much smaller like glass lens. So maybe that part was still covered by a continuous glass surface, but it's
exactly
was really
it.
weird. You think that's what it was? Yeah.
No, that's exactly it. Because I did not know this. And somehow I killed time watching YouTube. And I've been watching this YouTube feed, and I can't remember the name of the YouTube feed, but it's this guy in New Jersey, and he fixes phones. And his name is Leo. And he puts these short little vignettes and longer form ones. And he takes apart the iPhones and fixes them. And you see the way he does it. And it's just a little strip mall place that he's got. And he shows the customers walking in and interacting with the customers. It's just, it's interesting because it's human interest. And the guy's selling stuff or repairing stuff that we deal with on a normal day-to-day basis. And that's exactly what happened with this one person, where the camera cover was knocked off completely. And he's like, oh, those are just little caps. Here,
Still works.
let me get another one for you. So he goes in the back, and he's famous for this. And he'll put another one on. He'll glue it back on. Here you go. And he won't charge people. And he does a lot of goodwill. He'll put covers on them.
You're making so much money on YouTube. That's why.
Yeah.
Yeah, could be, but he'll do more serious repairs like replacing the back or replacing the digitizer. But that, I had no idea, Joe, but that's exactly what you surmised.
Right. That's just the Sapphire. I think they still make it, right?
And you can buy those as
supposed to be more
replaceable
durable.
components if you're a repair person.
If you're a repair person. Yeah. Well, maybe we'll look at that. Because something just reminded me of what you said, was that we're both due for new phones. Not that I need to justify this to you, Jerry, better than anybody. How easy it is for me to justify this. I need it. It's just funny. I've been on location a couple times over the last month, working on projects inside, outside, all over this relatively larger client campus. And my phone, it's really embarrassing when you're working with people that have Android phones and you got your iPhone with the battery stuck to the back and, you're plugging it in, you're chasing down outlets all the time. I'm just thinking, isn't this supposed to be a benefit of the iPhone? It's a very good battery life a lot of the time. I blame partly that was just from the beginning. And Sam, I know you had the same problem with your 16 Pro, I think it was the same model. And it was always like that, but especially now, we're almost 2 years into this model line. And so the battery is worn out. I can give you a live update now and tell you what my battery life is.
Yeah.
And everybody's
excited to hear this.
Excited to hear this.
Yeah, Joe, your phone is 2 years old. Oh, it's so old.
Maximum capacity is 88%.
Oh my gosh.
I'm embarrassed to be carrying this around.
I'm an animal.
My cycle count is 913. Yeah, manufacture date was August 2024. Really, it's in first use was September 2024. So there you go. That's the full update for you guys. So 88% obviously isn't that bad, but it does reduce the overall. If my phone got 10 hours maximum on day one, it's only going to get 8 8.8 hours today.
Yeah, you need the
something,
10
right?
hours, Joe.
So yeah, but if it should have gotten 10 hours and it was only ever getting 8 hours and now 80% of that. So you start to notice it after a few years, the bottom line. And so she and I are both due for new phones. And so now, of course, 1 month shy of the new phones, she breaks the lens on the phone. So whether she can suffer through it and be fine with it, when we trade it in, that's an issue. So, of course, we do have Apple Care. So now we have to go through the process of an Apple Care repair and paying for that. So the math, we're going to have to figure that part out again. But 2 years ago when I got these phones, what we did for her phone at the time was, I think it was a 12 it was a 12 Pro, maybe my old 12 Pro, which had Apple Care. So we did the trade-in and we answered all the questions in the affirmative. Yes, it's great quality, no problems, nothing's cracked in the front or the back. The assumption being that, yes, it is cracked and we're going to do an Apple Care incident before we actually send in the old phone. So we did the trade-in based on the phone in great condition, got the new phone, transferred the data, got her all set up, and you have another, I think, week or 14 days or something to send the old phone back. And so we had time to do an advance replacement of the phone, or we probably could have even sent it out at that point. But I figured I actually don't want to. Anyway, the point was like, I'm going to just put this brand new phone replaced by Apple Care in a box and send it out. And so we got like $800 credit from a 12 Pro. And that's a very old phone now, but even a few years ago, 2 years ago, it was already several years old. So we got a really good value, even minus the Apple Care repair price, just the hassle of doing it. But to your point, if you don't need to go through that and you can just rip that broken screen protector off, that definitely makes it a little bit easier and less expensive. But there's no good way that I could see to protect the camera lenses, because one of the benefits of the sapphire glass is not only is it more durable, but it's really easy to clean. You just wipe it on a shirt and you've got a clean lens, and a lot of people don't know that, but you take much better photos if you just bother to wipe the thing off first. You've probably seen people trying to take photos with these smudged lenses, and they're cloudy photos. It looks like you're on a misty mountaintop. And so I tend to shy away from those. I don't know about you guys, but a lot of these cases, whether they're OtterBox full protection or just a basic case, a lot of times they do have protection for the camera lenses. And I just recommend that people don't use that because they're much better without it. Yeah.
Agreed.
So that's a vulnerable spot, even with a case most times. Because my case right now, I use some cheap whatever. That's the other thing. Don't buy a case from the Apple store. Get that on Amazon as well. This is the Spigen, Spigen. I think I paid $20 for it, and it's great. It supports MagSafe. It's just a nice, slick, very simple case. It supports the camera control feature. Yeah, anyway, it's good quality case, and it's much cheaper to get it on Amazon to go to the Apple store for that.
I'm going to go back to caseless. I feel cooler that way.
Yeah, I might try that for the next one too. I was in the Apple store for some unrelated reason, and I had to pick up the iPhone Air and just tempt myself to temporarily switch to one of those. But I think if they do a new generation of iPhone Air, I may do that. And then that'll be a major contrast going from the Pro with a case to the Air with no case. That'll be, I think, a really fun thing to carry for a while, especially if they put 2 cameras on it. I think I'll probably do it.
We'll expect a full report, Joe.
Yeah. One last thing. I know, Jerry, we got to wrap up, but the iPhone or the Apple upgrade program, a lot of people have been talking about this. And I think all the analysis that I've heard misses the main point, which is just that this is a way for Apple to sell more products. People are saying they're basically financing the phone with no finance charge because you're paying monthly. And then at the end, you can either pay the rest and own the phone, or you can just get into a new contract with a brand new phone. So let's say you just buy it out and then you've got a phone that's worth as much as, still worth something, and you only paid the original price for it. So what's in it for Apple? What's in it for Apple is obviously selling a lot more phones because it just makes it accessible to more people. And it encourages you to buy a new phone at least every 2 years, maybe even more frequently than that. So it will just commit more people to having a new phone all the time. versus waiting 3 years or more sometimes.
I think that's the same. They're just using the automobile industry concept of like leasing and then for 3 years, and then they get you a new car 2 years in to cycle you out, and then they sell that other car for a profit as well. Yeah, it's a similar concept there, but yeah, selling more phones, name of the game.
Overall, just
they call it an upgrade program. And the two problems that I have, I understand what you're saying, Joe, and I agree. The barrier to entry is lower because the person pays a nominal fee to monthly. And they're leasing the phone. They're not really renting it. And then I don't know what the residual at the end would be to buy the phone outright if you wanted to after 2 years or 1 year.
It's the balance of the original purchase price at that point. So there's no extra finance.
Right. But at the low lease payments, you're probably paying more than theoretically speaking, you're probably paying more than what the street value of the phone is at that particular point. And then the other thing is that
for the old phone.
Yeah. And the other problem is that the old upgrade program, which wasn't a leasing program per se, included Apple Care, and this does not. So if the barrier to entry is lower and people who may not necessarily be as savvy with phones and learn the lessons about not to drop them, maybe would get something where there would certainly be, you can't turn in a dinged up phone at the end of your lease and say, oh, I'm done. There's going to be, just like with a car, you bring a car in, there's going to be some sort of a payment that you're going to have to pay to, and that's probably in the fine print. So it's not for me, but the times where I've purchased a computer from Apple, like this MacBook Air that I'm using, I'll finance it over 12 months using Apple's money and put it on the Apple Card and get a little bit of additional discount. I think buying it and even financing it through AT&T or one of your major cellular carriers is also a good way to go, because at the end of whatever it is, the 2-year or the 3-year term, you have some value in it because you own it outright, and then you could trade it in. So you're right. It opens up a whole new audience, but all of us who are already indoctrinated, I think this particular program wouldn't necessarily be the way for us to work.
Yeah, if you're already buying a brand new phone every 2 years on average, then it's a wash, really. But, for the people that are waiting as long as possible before buying a new phone, they're currently paying less for their phones. They're just dealing with older technology and they're fine with it. What this program does is it lowers the barrier to entry enough where more people will buy the new phone sooner. And so it benefits Apple because they're overall selling more hardware. It basically solves the problem of like when you get to a certain scale and everyone who wants an iPhone has one, whether it's 4 years old or 1 year old, there's no new people to sell phones to. Sure, there's Android switchers to iPhone, right? But for the most part, no one's just discovering the phone today. So there aren't that many new people to sell to. So you've got to sell to the existing people more frequently. And that's what the iPhone upgrade program allows Apple to do. So it's a genius move, like from their finance perspective. And again, there's no downside to the people that are doing it, other than the fact that you're basically committing to buying a new phone more frequently. It's not a commitment because you could just buy it out at the end of the term and keep it and use it for 2 years for free. But if you're like already in the program, it's very easy for Apple to help you justify, as if I need any more help doing that, the new phone at that point. Because you're like, I just keep paying the same thing that I'm already paying, and now I have a brand new phone. Great, let's just keep it, just let it ride. So it will overall it'll increase the market that much more, I think.
Yeah, but in your case, if you decided to do something like this, you would have to factor in the Apple Care that you'd be paying every month.
Yeah, I'm already paying for it.
And this only works if you're flipping it every 2 years or every 12 months or 2 years. Is that the term? The basic term here?
I forget if it's 1 or 2 years, but the point is, the end of the term, whatever you've paid monthly toward the phone, and the difference in price versus what you've paid overall to the phone's original price, you just pay the difference and now you own the phone. So it's the same exact amount of money you would have paid if you had bought it up front. To your point about using Apple's money, you might as well take them up on this offer of free financing because you're not paying any extra. Yeah. You lose if you send the phone back and you get on a new plan, because then you've just paid all that money for just renting a phone for all those years.
Yeah. It works perfectly if the phone's in pristine condition and you're not.
True. Yeah. If you didn't have Apple Care, and I just wanted to get that in there while it's still relevant about the Apple upgrade program. Thanks everybody for listening to another episode of Command Control Power. Thank you for tolerating all the boops and beeps from my side. And
You had to just add them back in.
yeah, exactly. Just for Jerry's audio editing fun. All right. Thanks, everybody, for listening to Command Control Power. We'll talk to you in a week.
Command, control, power. Late night logs and blinking lights, a ticket queue that never ends. Jerry's on a call with someone who forgot their password again. Sam's in a server room tracing wires and cooling fans, and Joe's explaining line by line the plan that saves the day. 13 plus years of real world fixes, and we've still got tales to share. My keyboard